Inflation in the United States increased more than expected in December, driven by higher costs for housing, dining out and car insurance. Joining me now is business reporter Ed Boyd. Morning, Ed. These stronger than expected numbers could force the US Federal Reserve to keep interest rates higher for longer.
Yeah, look, the expectation was inflation. It is slowly falling in the United States. It's falling in Australia as well. We got the recent inflation data earlier this week for our economy. But you can see here, this is the annual rate of inflation in the United States. You can see it's sort of bounced around the sort of 3% level since roughly July 2023. Remember, it was 9.1%. Around July 2022. So it's come down a long way from there. But just have a look at the next page. You can see some of the things that are still escalating in cost in America. You've got food there on the screen, but the big one at the bottom, car insurance up about 20%. On an annualised basis. Rent's expensive as well. Rents, coincidentally, in Australia were up 7% in the month of November for us. They're up 6.5% in this month of December for the US. Electricity costs up too, and takeaway restaurants up as well. A lot of those expenses are very similar to the price rises we've seen here on our shores. But look, it all comes down to the US Federal Reserve. Their first cash rate meeting of the year is at the very end of this month, so a week before the Reserve Bank of Australia. Remember, interest rates in America are at 5.5%. And there was speculation late last year that the US Fed was going to start cutting rates by potentially the month of around March, so just a few months away. But now with this inflation figure coming in a little bit hotter than expected, people are cooling off on their views on when the US Fed, is going to start cutting the cash rate. It might not be until a bit later this year. So the overall view here, Simon, is we're probably going to see the cash rate in America, and for that matter, Australia, a bit higher than we want, a bit higher for longer, to bring down these inflationary pressures we're seeing all over the world.
Yeah, well, Ed, oil prices have also surged after Iran seized an oil tanker in the Gulf of Oman.
Yeah, this has been a pretty big story in the last sort of 12 hours or so. This happened overnight. So Iran boarded an oil tanker. It had filled up with oil from the Iraqi port of Basra and was travelling through the Gulf of Oman. It was seized by Iran. It's now being taken to Iran. And what we can show you is the immediate impact that this has had on the Brent crude oil price overnight. You can see oil prices have surged about a bit over 2% just off the back of this. So this is just another disruption in the Middle East oil market. We've obviously seen the Houthi rebels, the Yemen Houthi rebels have been attacking oil ships for the last couple of months, really. And this is just another disruption that we're seeing in the sector, and it's pushing up the price of oil. Oil is obviously a massive household expense for Australians as well. Obviously, the price of petrol is around $2 a litre at the moment. And when oil prices go up, it does take between 6 and 8 weeks to get those prices come through to the bowser. But obviously, with oil prices rising again, not good news for consumers and not good news for inflation as well, and the expectations for inflation and the cash rate in Australia, Simon.